a lot of positive energy around today's show. So I think it's going to be real good.
There it is, man. I can dig it. I can dig it. And I think Sister Michelle, are you in here too?
Please, brothers, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Loud and clear. How's everything with you?
Okay, good morning. Everything is fine and well.
Excellent.
How are you guys
And I
doing?
think, man, things are moving. Things are well over this way. And I think, as you heard, Brother Charles, he said, man, he got good energy around him today. So we gonna roll with that. Brother Hallwalk, I think he's in the building.
Yeah, I'm here, brothers. How you doing this early Sunday morning?
Doing good, brother.
I'm well.
Everything and nothing is wrong.
All right. So good energy, positive energy. Let's move forward.
All right. Well, let's get it on, man. As everybody knows, this month we were talking about building on with equinox, and and before I go on, let me give you the call-in number for anybody who wants to call in. The number is 515-9862. Again, the number is 515-605-9862. Just hit the number 1, and you can express your questions, or you got comments, or you want to anything like that. You just want to join the conversation and share what you thought of this month's topic. Go ahead and do that. We'll get you on in. So, just for me, this spring equinox and just the whole, not even just the Chief Speaks, but even the community shows, which even built on the topic more, just really was hitting home and it started for me with the Zen, and it was just basically building on just world topics and you not taking on more than what you could consume. And a lot of the times when we start watching TV and we start just making ourselves concerned with things that we shouldn't be concerned with, then all of a sudden one will get overwhelmed and one can't really gather their thoughts and gather what they should be doing because you're so more worried about what other things are going on around you. And when you start worrying more about other things that are going on around you, sometimes you get inundated. And when you get inundated, then you do absolutely nothing. So then he went on to building and aligning with nature, because when you align with nature, the nature would always remind you that change or permanence, it's not going to stay the way it is. And everything has to move. It has to change. And we get stuck sometimes in this whole, I want this the way it is, and I want to be like this forever. And I really, my mate, and I love this person, and I don't want to live without this person, and I want to be with this person the rest of my life. And sad but true, person's not going to be there forever. They're not going to be here forever. Anything that you're going through is not going to be forever. And I think that's the beautiful thing about anything that we are, is that you see that it's not going to be forever. So even if you're going through a dark time, which is needed, even if you're in the light, which is needed, it's not going to be forever, which even takes me back sometimes to that, I think it was when he was building on just the whole row your boat gently down the stream. And a lot of times when you get to a space and a place where everything is flowing and the fruit is beautiful and lush and you're eating and everything is going good, you want to stay there forever. But not knowing that stream is still going to take you down. And you might look and glance down to the other way and say, hold up now. Looks a little barren down there. Looks like a little deserted island, and I don't want to go down there. And if you start to fight the flow, you start to fight everything against the current to try to stay where you're at, but not knowing that when the fruit is ripe, but when it gets too ripe, it rots. So you're going to have to start rolling down that stack and get everything that you can in the darkness, do everything that you can in the cover, and then go down there and keep on rolling and roll with the flow of life. So I really enjoyed even community segment, Chief Speak segment, and all. But let me see what everybody else has to say about the topic.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you were just bringing up, Zach. I mean, so it's funny. This month's shows, they reminded me a lot of like the old Foundational Friday shows. In that, I really felt like especially the last show, was really heavily layered and textured. And, I think that Chief put a lot of effort really into teaching throughout the whole month. And it just sort of built towards a crescendo into that last week's show. this concept of change and what happens when you are unwilling to accept change, and aligning yourself with nature, like you said, is one of the critical parts of what was being talked about. I also thought it was really interesting, the idea of the wheel of life, and just thinking about what that wheel looks like, and the way that wheel as an image is used throughout different spiritual systems to basically show the person looking at it different things. Obviously in the Ifa system, we have our Opon, which is circular and is also showing us sort of like the cycle and flow of energy in our lives. And so there was a lot that I was seeing connected with that. And then I also really appreciated that even though, these month's shows were about the spring equinox, there was this consistent message of not waiting until a particular time of year to do the work that's important for you. So sometimes, I'm sure many of us have seen or know people who are very calibrated in terms of their spiritual actions to different times of the year. Yes.
We lost you there for a second. You're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay, cool. Oh, I didn't move. So, okay. So what I was saying was that, I was really appreciating this notion of, even though we're talking about the spring equinox, to not get locked into only doing certain things at a certain time of the year, and instead doing what is most necessary in the time that you need to do it. And so what I was saying is that, some of us may know people who are always calibrating their spiritual activities around certain events or certain times of the year. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that, but I really thought it was personally empowering to think that, if you have something that you have to do, get that work done. And I would just get to, having to get sleep, for example. People may say like the best time for you to sleep may be at night because it's dark. But if you're tired and you need that rest, you take that rest when you need it. And, in that same way, I appreciated the messaging that in our work and in our character development and our spiritual development, that's an ongoing process that needs to happen when it is best for us, and not necessarily calibrated to a particular time of the year. I also really appreciated the analysis of what it means to move into that spring equinox time, and just the idea of, really using those, for us in the Western Hemisphere, using those winter months and those times when it's cold to look at, the state of how we are, to look very much internally, and to look at our internal composition, and to look at maybe those dark aspects of ourselves that we're not used to showing and not really used to dealing with. And then in the transition of moving into the spring equinox, then also looking to bring our new selves or our developed selves as a result of that introspection into light. And so those were the concepts that really stood out for me. And I just thought that I really appreciate this much. So I appreciate them all anyway, but I thought there was a lot of real good information that was shared with that. And so that's my impression of this month's shows.
And as you were just speaking, Brother Charles, I just was thinking that you was saying that these, even these cosmic events that are going on, don't get so caught up into them and trying to move with these cosmic events. Why do you think that so many people do just get stuck in this, I have to move when that is, or it's not going to be right? Why do you think that is?
I mean, I think that a lot of times, part of it is that I think when we come into our spirituality, we need a teacher and we need a guide, which is completely natural. And then I also think what happens is that because of how a lot of us are educated, we're educated in a very prescriptive sort of way. So, if you think about just the way that the day kind of runs, you have to be to work at a certain time. You take lunch at a certain time. You leave work at a certain time. You try to eat dinner at a certain time. Your favorite shows come on at a certain time. So this concept of time and the rigidity around it is sort of inherently programmed. And I think there's a desire then for all of us, or for many of us, to try to rigidly put all of our activity into that same time frame. And, anybody that has ever visited the continent or participated in ritual knows that that stuff never runs on a certain time. It's never like, okay, we're going to start the ritual at 4 p.m. and it's going to be done at 6 p.m. It never works that way, because you're dealing with concepts and thoughts and ideas and spirit forms that are without time. I think that's actually one of the things that you were saying. And so trying to condense and trying to rationalize these experiences down to something calibrated in a particular way can be, I guess it's a safe way to do it. So I understand it in that sense. And at the same time, I think one of the things that is really emphasized to us as Anu students is the value of being as natural as possible with your spirituality. And I think that means that, you're really calibrating these experiences and this work and this development to what is most appropriate for you at the most appropriate time, which may not work at the same time as you. There can be some things and there can be some work that you need to do that maybe is best done in the mornings. Whereas for me, it may be very late at night. And so, we have to really be in tune with ourselves. And I think that's sort of where many of us, I think, are trying to run and move to. But I do think that part of the way that we look at time and part of the way that we're sort of programmed to adhere to time makes it so that even when it comes to our spiritual work, we're using a very time rigid system around that too.
Right on, brother. Right on. All right. And before we go to Sister Michelle and Brother Anwar, just wanted to give a shout out to everybody on YouTube Live. We got you in the chat room. I see y'all. I know Chief normally gives a shout out. I don't want to mispronounce y'all's name, so I'm going to just give y'all a shout out to everybody in the chat room. What it do? We see you holding it down. And we are going to go now over to Sister Michelle. Sister Michelle, what'd you think of this month?
This month was awesome. I mean, it was so magical for me personally. I mean, I had my own equinox myself that I also shared with the family on the 21st. But I have to really be honest and say that, I don't think I heard the same things while I was listening to the shows live before the equinox. And then when I re-listened to the shows after the equinox and after I had my own experience, it was a completely two different shows. I heard things completely differently. And in a way, that was a gift. And what Brother Charles was just talking about, the whole, having your own personal equinox whenever you want, is very true. But I feel like there is a very, especially for us Western people, it's such an important experience to live it externally first and then get a feel for the energies, so that way now you have an image in your mind of what it's supposed to feel like, so that you can recreate it anytime, or you can recognize it the next time it comes around. You're like, oh, I felt this before. I know what this is. So it's the same thing like working with the moon. Chief always says, don't work with the moon. But I feel like I can do that now only because I've been working with the moon. Now I kind of have a feel for it. But even then, it's a very personal experience. And it is a crime what they've done to the Western people, where we don't really internalize our exterior, which is what you were asking about, Brother Zach. I think that's our problem. We don't see our external realities as a mirror of our internal turmoil. We don't even relate diseases to be spiritual. I mean, even if you try to explain that to somebody, they'll start looking at you like you're kind of nuts. Like, what do you mean it's a spiritual problem? So it's a very difficult concept for this side of the world to really take a grasp on. But I think that's slowly changing. And let me see, I have a couple of other notes. But even before I go into the stuff that I've written down, listening to the opening of this show just now was also like another level of enlightenment, because the opening is exactly what we should be doing, with finding the balance between our light and our dark and living in the middle of it, which also, touches back to the wheel of life. But I'll open the floor to see what you guys think before I keep on yapping.
One thing that when you just was, what would you tell somebody who says, that these, and I just was thinking about two things. One was even that movie Doctor Strange, when everything had to be scientific and everything had to be this way, and he was basically looking through basically a keyhole at life when he finally went to a different practitioner who had to open up his mind and show him that the world is much bigger than what you have been looking to. How would you say, or how would you tell somebody who, when you say, even these diseases that you have, even these things that are coming on to you are all spiritual, and they look at you and say, well, you know what, though, I got mouths to feed, I have bills to pay, I got all of these different things that is coming down, the weight of the world is coming down on me, and you telling me to be spiritual? You telling me to meditate? Meditation ain't gonna pay my bills. Meditation ain't gonna put food on my table. How would you tell that person to get it together?
Well, I would start by, his belief systems. I'm like, why do you feel like you're not worthy? Why do you feel like you have to work so much for what you deserve, or for what you feel like are your basic needs? And I would also explain that this is not something that's going to happen overnight. Like, the work on yourself, your inner self, is going to take decades. So you can't really go into spirituality looking for a quick fix, because the state of disease that the person's in at the moment didn't get there overnight. They got there over decades of toxicity and negative thoughts. So it's going to take just about the same amount of time to get rid of it, even to get to a quote unquote healthy, normal standard for a natural man or woman level. Like, just to get to that base level, it's going to take a Westerner decades of reprogramming. It might be even too late for some of us, but you can get to a certain level. The whole point is that for you to get healthy, not necessarily for you, but necessarily for the next generation. So now, how bad do you want to work at it? Do you want to work at it for the next 10, 20 years? Okay, let's have a different conversation. And let's not take it from that angle, because if you're looking at it from that angle, you're already looking at it the wrong way. Because spirituality is not to, become a millionaire overnight. It is in a very different level, a very different sense, and you'll become abundant, but in other things, and over a long period of time, when you're ready for it. But it's a different ballgame. So when people are like, no, I don't have time for that, then that's it. You just leave it at that. It's like, okay, they've already created the reality. They don't have time for their spirituality. That's it, right? I mean, I would give up. Maybe that's me being mean, but I personally like to help people who want to be helped.
And, when just as you were speaking to it, just made me think of that whole, if you don't pick a culture, one will be chosen for you. And if you try to start infusing two different cultures, one of them is like organisms, one of them is going to fight for dominance. Interesting. Brother Anwar. Thank you, Sister Michelle, too. Brother Anwar, what's going on, man? What you got for the people today?
Greetings. Yeah, let me chime in on that question real quick. One thing that I've been in is, for the last month, I've been in a very dark space. And it goes with the controlling of how we were speaking about not having the time frame or the celestial events kind of judge your actions. And, I had a lot of revelations this month. And my biggest thing that came up was the identity of a man and what a man is supposed to be there. That was one of the main themes for me this month, especially with the conversations that we've been having. To answer the question that you just asked, that I would tell that person that, like, they work hand in hand. You know, whatever system, whatever system you're working with, whatever religious-based, spiritual-based that you're working with, it goes hand in hand to the physical and reality that you're placing, you're putting into motion. So, you know, you can't sit there and tell a person to meditate all day when he has to go out and work, right? So the thing is that you're gonna have to find a space for that type of meditation to work inside of the work base. Meaning, don't think that they're separate from each other, and you have to make sure that you work in both angles for those for your manifestations to come together, for your things to come into the light. You know, so that's just my take on that question, because I think one thing that we do is that we put too much emphasis on one side, meaning our spiritual side, and then we never put any emphasis on the doing. And I've had those problems. Even this month, I had that problem. And I was putting myself into a place where spiritually I was doing a lot of things at the beginning of the month, and then ended up doing completely opposite, where I'm doing a lot of physical things. I literally had to kind of strip myself down this month from my spiritual side, because I did a lot of spiritual stuff already, but I had to get into the action. In order for that to be a balance, and finding that balance and getting past those plateaus, getting past those little places where you get stuck at, you have to put the work in. And just going back to the conversation that Chief had on The Heat Is Up, or The Heat Is On that midnight show, it's like that show really clarified a lot of things I was feeling. You know, just on the, let's not say feeling, knowing. Now I'm in more of a directive mode. I understood, like, even after that day, I went to the gym, and I realized the purpose of the masculine energy is that it's a push force. There's so much resistance inside of pushing. You know what I'm saying? That push, that bench press, when you're pushing forward, there's nothing but resistance coming at you when you're pushing that weight up. And with the masculine intent, that's what we're supposed to do. We're built to deal with that. We're built to deal with all the pressure and all the pushback from everything else, but we have to push forward. So there's two sides of this, like the darker side, when we get into our darker spaces, our spirituality, and we're feeling the pull, we're feeling all the issue, we're putting out all the intent that we have to do. And then once we get into the masculine side, the light side, and we start actually doing the work and pushing forward, that's when everything starts connected. So, you know, for any person that would have have that question on what would spirituality do for me, spirituality is just the place where you find your path, and then from there you push forward into the light of the things that you need to manifest from that darkness. And that's where I'm at now. You know, honestly, you know, that, shoot, I'll be real, like that show was like the culmination of everything that he was speaking to me. I got from this past month's show is that, you know, there's no time for me to sit here and complain about the pushback. There's no time for me to sit here and sorrow away or bicker away about the stuff that's happening to me. It's only push forward. Find your direction, find your purpose, and keep pushing forward. And all that other stuff is going to be there. So just make sure that I'm focused, that this is my direction, this is where I'm going. And if I'm doing the right thing wrongly multiple times, I'm still doing the right thing until I do it the right way, so I can connect with the manifestation that I'm trying to push out.
You know, and just as I heard you, one thing you were just talking about is just, you know, the masculine energy and the masculine energy pushing. And why do you think it's so hard for people to let's say you're talking to a brother or a young man and you're saying, you know what, you have to have that push, and in that push you're going to get resistance. How would you tell him to push through certain obstacles and things that he's going through, even though it seems like the world is pushing against him?
Well, Chief did it to me, and I'll probably end up doing it the same way. And he said, grow some balls, man. There's no time for us to sit here and cry about things that you can't deal with. Grow some balls, man. Get with it. Get with it. You have to deal with it. Push forward. Deal with the things that you choose to deal with too. And that's another thing that I'm finding clear. I found clear on that particular show was that I don't have to deal with all this stuff. This stuff is, if it's not forward, making me move forward in the direction that I'm moving, and if I don't allow it, or if I don't have the grace to allow that situation to interfere with my forward motions, I don't have to deal with it. Period. I can leave it just as is and just let them deal with that. So, for telling any male to push forward, if you have trials and tribulations that come with that forward push, deal with it. Grow some balls, get your man up, and move forward. I was like that night. I'm telling you, I was heated. Chief clarified a lot of stuff, but that medicine was bitter. But guess what? I was the next morning once I consumed it and let it sink in and let all the information sink in. Oh, I was on it. So sometimes, like for men, I think that aggression between men is needed, because with a woman, if I sat here and started complaining, most women, if they're truly caring for you, they're going to try to console you with your pain and so forth and so on. But that's not what's needed to push through the process. You need that masculine intent to push forward. If you get stuck in that pull and you're not moving, you're continuously getting stuck in the same place, that hamster wheel, as you was talking about. You know what I'm saying? You're still running in place and just taking a break to go drink some water and go back on the wheel and keep running in place. How are you going to ever break out the cage? You know, that day after, that's literally what I did. I tore that thing down, threw it across the cage, and tried to break the glass. So, so that's my advice I would give for a male. Same way, grab your balls, man. Get your balls up, man. Get your manhood up. Do the things that you need to do, that you know that you need to do, because that's the most important thing, is that you know you need to do these things. Stop procrastinating. Hashtag. You even put a hashtag, procrastination. You know, stop procrastinating. Get it moving.
Give thanks, brother. You know, and one of the things that I just heard you speaking, and even when Brother Charles was building y'all, and when Chief broke that down of this past Sunday, was talking about, you know, the will and the will of life, and how one is supposed to work their way to the middle and not be on the outside, because it's the balancing point that's in the middle. And it's almost like, you know, you got all of these pitfalls and all of these things that start to, what is going to grab you from actually doing the things that you came down here to do. And in the middle of it, just in the Buddhist will of life, I remember it was the boar, the snake, and the rooster. Rooster or the cock? Something. So, and I just finished reading this book called Undisputed. I don't know if anybody has checked that out, but if you haven't, I suggest you check it out, because it's one of the things that just the whole building up of Mike Tyson, and he basically got trapped by all three. One of the things that, you know, it was he couldn't control his sexual appetite, couldn't control his greed to purchase things, and he couldn't control his anger. But then it was like a fine balancing point, and a fine balance, because you don't want to, even that masculine with the push, what Brother Onward was just speaking about. You don't want to beat it has to be, you don't want to take the anger out. It has to be one of the focus. You have to master it. So therefore now it's just not spewing over and just killing and destroying everything going on around you, but you can focus it on and direct it towards what you need to direct it towards, and that's mastering what you need to master. But when you don't master it and you just are moving around and making decisions unconsciously, then all of a sudden you find yourself in spaces and places that you don't want to be in. But then you look around, and then that's when you start to bring out that what I like to call is a blame thrower. And you start to blame everybody around you, or you blame all these people, these situations, or you blame your upbringing, or you start to blame your mother and father. You blame these. You just say, you know what? If my life was like this, then I wouldn't be in this situation. Or if I had the funds that they had, or you don't have to deal with these things that I have to deal with. You don't have to go through everything that I go through. And at the end of the day, and at the beginning of the day, nobody cares. Nobody cares. And if you don't start to put the work in, if you don't start to put the time in and the energy and the effort to actually look and fix your situation, nobody's going to step in and nobody's going to do anything about it. Nobody's going to come and just like when they said, even cheaply, like when you claim that you're a student, but then all of a sudden if somebody asks you, have you seen the show? I haven't, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't got a chance to get around to it. Well, now these are excuses. And excuses sound best to those who make them. So now what you doing? You're going to sit there and give excuses all your life of why you sitting on the outside of the wheel, why you feel like you're outside and you can't get in? Or you going to say, you know what, just like Brother Anwar was speaking about a little bit, was this, you know, I'm going to push through this. I'm going to get through this, and I'm going to get to the inside of that wheel, so therefore I can have a balancing point. You know, say, are you going to lean on, you know, I'm a Leo, or I'm a this, and this is just the way it is, and that's just how this person is. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to start to move? Are you going to start to hold your own nuts? Or are you going to start to cry about it? You know, and make excuses about why the way you are. So that wheel of life, man, it's a big thing, and I suggest everybody actually go and take a look at it. Go listen to those shows a few times too, just to make sure you can really get that solid.
Cool.
And I think we got a. Oh, go ahead, Brother Charles.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we have a caller, and this is a this is a hot conversation, guys. It's a hot topic. But yeah, we got a caller on 615. 615, you're on with Chief Speaks, the student panel.
Greetings, brother. Boys, greetings, panel.
Peace, brother.
Greetings, brother.
Greetings. How's everybody holding up?
You know, I think we just rolled out of bed like you did, brother. So I think we're holding up all right.
All right. Well, yeah, man. I was listening at the program, and I was going back over what I took from the classes this week, and what struck me the most about that wheel is the fact that the wheel is simply an indicator with regards to where you at in your personal life. So like if you're around certain things, if you keep encountering certain situations, this is where you are in life according to the structure of that wheel. So like if I call it and I correlate that with just knowing when you in a sunken place and being aware of it and getting out of it. What the main aim is getting off the wheel completely and reaching your higher levels of consciousness, because the wheel is a trap. The whole point is to get off of it, because if you look at it, nobody in that wheel is actually balanced. From the devies to the demons to the auras to the ghosts to the animals, that they're really out of balance. Even though at that point you might feel as if that's what you need to be doing, but really you out of balance. And all that will come to fruition if you just stay woke. So between that and the way Chief, just gave us that wake up call and broke that light code of, stop. Me and you just got to suck it up. It ain't gonna be pretty. It ain't gonna be, glitter. It ain't gonna all be, Hotep red, green, and gold. It's gonna require us to get dirty and just be like, you just put the emotions in your back pocket and keep it pushing. Because these people really don't care nothing about you at all. So you somewhere crying about your situation, somebody, somewhere winning, and you tripping. So like that's really what I had got from it, and I've experienced that since you said it.
Hey, brother, I got a question for you, brother DJ.
All right.
Why do you always say I'm listening at the program and not to the program?
A country, I guess. I don't know. I never really thought of that. I guess it's like cutting on a light instead of flicking it on. I don't know.
I just always found that interesting, man. Every time I hear I'm listening at the program, and why does she always do that? Cool, man. I might just do that down south thing, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Especially when you just waking up and you down here with them.
Okay, all right, no doubt, man. But yeah, I heard you just and one thing that Brother Charles would always say too, though, is that don't be so heavenly minded that you know earthly good. And
exactly.
that reminded me of that whole spring, that equinox thing. Which better yet, Brother Charles, can you expound on that a little bit for us?
Sure. So first, I don't know if I'm the person that always says that. I think that might have been a chiefism that I took from him, actually. But
okay.
I think it kind of ties back conceptually to a lot of what Anwar was saying. So, when you think about it, we have these ideas, right? We have these things that we want to do. We have this spiritual work that we do. But, the spiritual side of it is one part of it. The other part of it is actually doing the work, right? So, like as an example, if you look at the composition of our Opon Ifa, right? And if you look at it from the standpoint of, so we know like in the top part of it, you're dealing with your Ori, right? And that Ori section is about your thoughts, it's about your energy, it's about your ideas, it's about the things that you want to create and do for yourself. But the way that the energy works, the energy pattern works, is then to connect to that SA region, right? ESC. In that region, we're dealing with the actual work. You're dealing with actually doing the things that you were planning and that you were talking about. And so if you omit the work part of it, then all of the spiritual stuff that you're doing and your ideas, which are even sometimes spiritual in nature themselves, you're stifling that whole creative process because you're not willing to do the work. And as our experience here on this planet, we're both physically in this planet, and then we're also spiritual as well. So we're a physical and a spiritual being, which means that we're constantly trying to balance out both of those sides. So we can't be wholly focused on our physical side, because if we neglect the spiritual, that's going to have consequences. At the same time, if we attempt to be wholly spiritual and neglect the physical consequences of the physical reality, then we're going to have consequences that are experienced from that as well. So, when you look at that's really the concept and the point behind it. And so when I was listening to a lot of what Brother Anwar was saying, it just made me think about the way that energy works. And then also another side of it is the way that in that Opon, the energy in that Ori section is attributed to the very masculine energies, right? So that's where we find like a Shango energy, for example, like that idea, that visionary idea of willingness to create something. And then in that SA region, we find like the more of the feminine regions, we find like Yemoja in that place. So you're also still dealing with this counterbalance between male and female energy, right? And if you think about that in a very biological sense, one of the greatest creations we have in this world is the creation of other people. And that creation of other people is only achieved through the coming together of male and female principles and energy. So there's always this balance that's going to be in place. And so we have to give credence to that spiritual side of what's happening, and then also the physical side as well. And it's interesting because if you're a member of the show, I think it was actually the last show that Chief did. At one point there was a problem with the feed, and so Chief even said, "I didn't do the libations before I did the show, before I started to do the show." And I think maybe he might have went back and done it, and then you saw like the show went differently, right? So there was I thought I took a really huge lesson from that, because we're doing the spiritual work. You go to your altars, you go to your shrines, you're doing this work, you're doing these abos, you're doing these offerings, but then you also have to do something physical. You also have to do that part of the work of it. And even as Chief has told us, and which we, I'm sure you find to be true in your spiritual work, your spirituality can't do for you what you wouldn't physically do for yourself. You know, you want your spirituality to protect you. You're asking for your Moja for protection, but you're not actually a person that's going to protect yourself. You want Oshun to give you money or to bring you wealth, but you don't actually want to do the work to make that money yourself. You want Shango to impart on you leadership, but you don't take charge in real life. So how's that going to really work? So there has to be this balance between what you're doing spiritually and your spiritual work and your physical work to get the real connection and to get the real change that you want to see. So that's what that means when you say, you know, you can't be, you know, be so spiritually valuable that you know earthly good or something to that effect.
Hey,
all right, brother.
Just to add to that real quick, you know, at the beginning of the show, Chief said at the intro, he speaks on like men doing the same spiritual work as what the women are doing. It's like, it goes back to what he said. You came down here, first step one, when you came down here, you were either a male or female, right? So from that point, understanding that basic concept, and then going into your spiritual work and doing your spiritual work based off those intentions, and then using those intentions to work those rituals and those thoughts and intentions into reality. It works. That's how you know you're actually being effective and progressive on your spiritual work and your reality. So, you know, just to add to that, that's important. Let's know what you came down here with and what you have. You know, you even broke down like the body parts and how that just that alone is one of the things that help him know people, just by how big your hands are, how big the feet are, the legs, the nose, the ears, the belly. You know what I'm saying? Or what I really thought was pretty interesting was people with small hands. What he was talking about was people with small hands and small feet and big belly, and that being a sign of people that take a lot and don't give back. So that, you know, just those kind of concepts, man, and understanding what the step one is that you're a man or you're a female. Knowing that first, and then going into your spiritual work, and going into your physical work, it will help develop you into a place where you need to go to, especially when you start bringing it into your life purpose.
You know, and you just, as you were just speaking to Brother Charles, it was just making me think of when you just were saying that the male and female energies that come together to help to help one balance and to help have a balancing point. And I guess then I wanted to ask Sister Michelle, how is that the masculine energy, being as that you are a coupled woman, how is that the masculine energy helped you in balancing your own life?
Oh man, it's been a difference of night and day, to be honest. Before I was with Richard, I never really had a directive male figure. It was pretty much, feminized males. And after Richard, when I first met him off the bat, he was like, I'm looking for a wife. And, you know, everything in my mind said run away. And everything in my heart and spirit was like, yes. But that was an odd feeling. It was literally a battle between soul and mind. And we've had our challenges, and the challenges only come from me, so not wanting to submit, because I've never experienced that before, you know. So now it's much easier for me to submit when I can hear the male authority almost in his voice. I just say yes, you know, and that only makes me more of a woman. That makes me more relaxed in my own nature. I feel more at ease, and that's something that's helped me a lot in my family, to create my family, to maintain my family, support them, maintain the home, And I'm only getting better at it as time progresses. As the more I listen, whether it be to my husband or even to Chief, because believe it or not, I'm a pretty hard-headed student. You know, Chief has had to tell me things many times, and sometimes it's just like finally sinking in, like I'm finally understanding. But it's that male directive. I'm like, okay, now I'm listening. Before, I didn't listen so much. I was too much of a smart. I was smarty, like, oh, I know everything. Oh, I know better. Or you don't know what I'm thinking. That same mentality that we see, you know, in the college. You know, I've been there. The egoic, the feminist, you know, and a lot of these things I'm still working on. But with experience in it, because that's really all it is. You know, I think that's the hard time that women have is we haven't experienced male authority, so we don't know how to recognize it. So when it comes at us, it almost feels like an attack. So, you know, it's once we submit to it, we have to feel what it is to feel like to be secure, supported, and safe. Once we feel what a difference of life it is to be a woman in that position, you almost like can revel in a different type of freedom. But the problem is not, you know, getting there, or it is getting there, but the problem is explaining to the women to submit, to do it, and to just. I think that's with everybody. General statement for the question that you were just asking, brother. Oh, and by the way, brother Zach, I just gotta tell you with what you do, what you shared before you killed me. You killed me right in the heart. I just wanted to thank you. Opened more in my mind. Thank you, brother.
Okay, no doubt. I don't know what I said, but okay. Hey, and you know what I'm thinking though too is Deidre, are you still online?
I'm here.
So I remember even too when I just heard Sister Michelle speaking, and you know she was just saying how women just feel and submit. With submit just means to come under a plan. And sometimes us as men, we don't have a plan, and two, we kind of are hard to or pressed to. We don't want to impose our plan on other people. What are some of the things that you kind of had to deal with when you start to deal with your counterparts and saying that, you know, this is our plan and this is, and they have what Brother Onwar was talking about, and you deal with that, you get some of that pushback. What are some of the things that you do, or what are some of the things that you have seen that can start to help people move forward and building together?
Results and sticking to your mission statement. Because I was going through that, you know, with my child's mother. So I'm just like, look, you know, I'm not finna sit here and Chief, and like I said, Chief woke up a lot of light codes, man. You know, I'm not finna sit here and convince you of nothing. I'm not finna argue with you, and I'm not finna give you no options. This is just what we finna do. And not only am I gonna do it, I'm gonna be effective when I do it, and I'm gonna look good while I do it. So you're gonna be the one that's walking around looking silly when you had a chance to be on a winning team, and now you're gonna be having the same problems, you know, 2-3 years down the line, and I'm changing every week almost. So when you're dealing with women like that don't pay attention to detail or just want to buck the system just because they want an opinion, you know, you just got to be like, okay, I'm gonna just show you, and you got to win with results, because ain't nobody got time to sit up, because these women would give you a headache out here, and we was experiencing that last night. I'm like, look, you know, it was one of them situations where if I was I want to say a foot to my left, y'all have heard about this on the news. And like one of the sisters was like, y'all out in the streets like some hoodlums. I'm like, look, man, you can say that if you want to, but like my mentor used to always tell me, man, we still got 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 eyes, and 1 nose. We all alive still. And that's because we reacted like men. They weren't gonna come down here and brutalize us and get away with it, you know. So like if we had looked at it from that perspective of, okay, let's go out there and talk. Let's, go hide in the bushes and just hope for the danger to go. Man, we all would have been dead because he was driving backwards when he was doing it. But we had to respond accordingly to what we had to do. So, like, at that point, it's not even an option. Like, I don't even know what to tell you now. But that's just just a light code when Chief was like, man, stop leaving all these, stop asking open-ended questions where they can even come back and be like, okay, well, what about, no, ain't no what about nothing. The reason I'm like that is because I'm right. And the reason I'm right is because I went through the proper steps to come up with this antidote for this problem. So, like, I'm not just thinking emotionally. I'm not just thinking based off of what's in front of me right now. I'm thinking like almost, but not within an hour in advance. I'm thinking of weeks in advance and months. Like, what's gonna happen then? So, like, I'm not just making stuff up as it go because it sounds good. I'm doing this so all of us can benefit. And if you don't want to be a part of it, you can leave, like, for real. But I'm not gonna change my principles to make you comfortable. And that's what got me through it. So, like, when they start there, I'm like, look, man, you'll see. And don't get mad if I act like I don't know you, because you had your shot. So that's what I took away from that. Like, you just got to put your big boy pants on and be like, okay, let's go. We're not going to discuss this. And trust me, if you're on the same team, if you paying attention to detail, then you'll see what I'm talking about. If you're not, then you really ain't smart enough to be around me no way. And then at that point, you're a liability. Because whatever I implement, you just going to unravel it just because you want an opinion. I can care less about opinions. Give me some facts. Then we can work with that. But that other stuff, no. Sound bad, but you just got to do it.
Right on. Get next.
Brother D on here putting the big hand down on.
I mean, you got to. Because, like,
big hand down. Hey, wait, Brother D, hold on 1 second.
Yeah,
hold on 1 second, Brother D, because we're almost at the first hour mark, so I just want to make sure that everybody who wants to call in knows the number. So the number, once again, is 515-605-9862. Press the number 1, and you'll be on with the Chief Speak Student Show at the end of the month. So go ahead, Brother D, you got something else you want to say?
Yeah, I was saying that men, you have to do that, because I experienced firsthand last night. If you don't put your foot down when I ain't gonna say put my foot somewhere where it's Sunday morning and I don't want to be all like that. But when you don't put your foot where it needs to go, when it needs to go there, somebody really could die. Because, like, that's what we was in last night. Like, somebody really could die. And Chief had told me that about when I had the sister call, and he had told me, he was like, look, man, you got to stop being so soft with these women, because what's going to end up happening one day is you're going to be telling her to go right, and she going left, and going left will kill her. We was in that last night, So you sick, you built like a tank. I mean, it's time for you to run some stuff over. There's a reason that you built like that. And it's gonna be hard, because you don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. You don't want to be Ike Turner, but Ike Turner made Tina a superstar at the end of the day, and no one's talking about that. Whenever, if you think about it, whenever black men are involved in their families' lives, they create mega superstars, from the Williams sisters to Michael Jackson to what's his name, Cam Newton, RG3. All these different people, athletes and actors, had their father like behind them with their feet to the fire, saying, look, man, we not gonna pull this broke stuff now. Y'all better come on. And it's gonna be ugly. It's not gonna be pretty. It's not gonna be fun, but you're gonna like that money you're gonna be rolling around in when you get through, if you listen to me. For real. So that's what I was on. And I saw that firsthand last night. Like, you cannot be in a leadership position or even claim to be a man, and you in control of other people's lives, and be it spiritually or physically, and you playing around with them, because they ain't gonna just put like this. They ain't gonna pull that trigger when it need to be pulled with their feelings. You better tighten up, like they say in Florida. You better tighten up.
Quick, and you know, even when you was, I just heard you speaking, it just made me think of even that whole show of the breakdown of that whole skunk vibration. And even with the skunk and, you know, how it lets out the scent to basically let people know, which is its last line of defense, because it'll show you its stripes first. Like, all right, now look, this is what I'm about. This is what I do. You come close enough, then you gonna get sprayed. And once it lets it out, then it lets people know, you know, to stay away, to stay back. And it only brings in a certain vibration or attracts a certain type of people around them. So how much of then, if you start to look at even that whole breakdown of the skunk, then how much of that do you have to start looking at, okay, then if these are the type of people that are coming to me, then you have to start looking at kind of what vibration that you are giving out and what kind of plan that you have put in yourself. So how has even that one show on the whole skunk vibration helped you with the people that you start even attracting into your life, Brother Anwar? Brother Anwar, you still there? Can I still be heard on this line?
Yeah, we can hear.
We can hear you, brother.
Yeah,
I
think
think he accidentally muted himself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm back on. I'm back on, man. I got cut off. That's my fault.
Oh, no worries. Well, what I was just speaking about was just the whole skunk and the skunk vibration, and just hearing when Brother TJ was speaking, you know, of just how you basically plant your own flag and let people know what you're about. And I wanted to hear what your thoughts were about just, you know, that whole skunk vibration and taking a look at how people that you attract to you basically are either going to be repelled by you and stay away from you by the vibration you put out, or they're going to be attracted to you. And these people that are quote unquote demonic or bad for you, then how does that show you the vibration, what you're putting out into the world?
Well, I've noticed one thing about that. Just by putting the vibration I put out, I have, in business, let's say that in business, there's a lot of people in business that I just really don't like doing work for anymore. And I feel that as I market and I promote myself to certain people, it's just, they're not connecting. And it's, for me, I would rather not work with somebody I really don't want to work for, or do work to put my heart and soul to somebody and give that person that I know that is going to do something completely opposite of what I need, what I feel is morally correct to me. So that skunk, that spray, that sign, the signs that, look, either you're going to understand the vibration that I'm putting out and link up to it and go with that flow, or not go at all, or not even associate at all. I've had that experience. I think there's a good thing about that when it comes down to personal relationships, but for business relationships, it kind of throws it off, because you're talking about money here. You're talking about finances that can help me on my path. So I've had that little struggle, and I really can't really speak too much in detail with that, but that's the input I can put into it. I think I still have a lesson to learn in that situation personally.
You know what's funny about that skunk, Bubba? Skunks, you were saying that a skunk's last resort is the spray, but a skunk's actual last resort is to bite. You know, if you look at a skunk, and I've seen this, skunks are actually part of the Wolverine family, and they're extremely violent. Like, a skunk will really mess you up. So when you approaching a skunk, and like the way Chief broke that down, he broke it down masterfully, because the first thing a skunk gonna do is gonna tell you, well, I'm black and white, I'm loud colored, so I'm not trying to really hide from you. So they should just tell you something right there. So I'm not trying to hide from none of y'all. One. Two, when you approach it wrong, the first thing he gonna do is turn around. Most animals will face you when they're really just like scared. If something turns around and he's not running, okay, now I'm letting you know now I got something for you if you don't stop. So the third thing they do is they stand up on their front legs with their tails up. All right, now I'm pretty sure this is something you haven't seen before, so you just might want to stop. So the fourth thing is the actual spray. Now, because if you can continue to chase it, they'll really tear you up pretty bad. Like a skunk bite is like really, really bad. So what I had got from that is, like you said, planting your flag and showing people what you're about right then and there. Also giving them a chance to stop too. So like if you see, a person that, and that can go other ways too. When a person's just starting to show you who they are, then just kind of take notice of it and react accordingly. Because if a person is showing you that they're damaged and can't function, or they at a certain, under a certain light code, before you get something on you, because that spray will pulls the enamel, not the enamel, pulls the essential oils out of the animal's fur, and it prevents them from being waterproof. So like if when a skunk sprays a wolf in the face, they have to try to get that off immediately, because first, now you can't hunt because everything smells you moving. Then after that, if you get rained on, you get wet because it pulls the oils that keeps them waterproof and keeps the running from water running off of them, as opposed to sinking down to their skin and making them sick. So if a person is telling you that they have a bunch of acid for you, don't be following them around trying to help them when they clearly are who they are, because that one person could damage you for months or set you back for months where you can't function because you chasing them around thinking, oh, well, he's so cute, let's work with him, I understand, they don't know. No, this person will spray you and have you, put that energy on you to the point where no one else will want to be around you. And once again, I've experienced that out here. That's what I got from there. Like that's the duality of a black and white skunk. Not only is it for you to tell people like, look, this is my turf, but pay attention when other people are doing that too. Like if the person is showing you that they're damaged and toxic, leave them where they at, because you don't want that on you. There's no, you're not finna win that. Even if your hair fall out and shave, you got to go get in tomato juice, and people gonna laugh at you, for a good month, and everything you touch is gonna smell like that, and you'll never forget that particular skunk that did that. Every time you drive past where you got sprayed at, you're gonna think about it, and now you got somebody occupying space in your mind when you really should be focusing on your goal. So like that's how I looked at that as people. When people start to show you who they are, believe them, because they will put something on you that will take a long time to recover from. And I think that Chief had said that in the show about I think that, I want to say Thursday show. He was like, sometimes you some stuff you just can't recover from that quick because you subjected yourself to it, but you knew it was coming. The person gave you all the signals. So like that's really good. What I had appreciated about that skunk analogy.
That's some good medicine right there, Brother Dietrich. That is probably one of the things that I got in my past life that took a long time to get over. Even now, there's certain things, certain people that I associated myself that I still have kind of certain things that I have to edge out of my system. So that's some good medicine right there, man. And one thing about the skunk is that the people the animals that might come around the skunk might be the ones that are willing to hang out with this skunk and understands that this is the skunk, this is his territory, this is his place. So whatever animal might be hanging out, whatever animal that's hanging out with the skunk actually understands that this is a skunk, this is him, this is it, this is the definition of what he is. So I'm going to either follow his path and not evade that. So that's some good medicine right there. That's some good medicine right there, Brother Dietrich.
Hey.
Yeah, Sister Michelle, I think you said you wanted to jump in.
Yeah, I have a question for the panel. This, as a woman, this conversation lifts me up so much to hear men build. But I'm also very aware that you men are few and far in between. So how does a male who's a coward, because that's all I see really, or have seen in, out in my life, how does a coward become a man? And another question that I also have is, how does a coward raise another male? Because to me, I see it as a plague. So how do we come up from that?
The only way a coward can really, first of all, I don't think a coward ever really can be nothing but that. But usually for cowards like that, it usually either takes something that's extremely humiliating or something where his life has changed to the point to where he has no choice but to respond accordingly. And even then, a coward still ain't gonna do it. So something or someone has to put either the fear of God or the humiliation that can rival nothing else to snap them out of that. And it's just that you don't want the universe testing your resolve. You just don't want that. That's the only way to try to defer.
Struggle,
Yeah,
pain,
I would say,
resistance.
go ahead, brother.
All those stress factors that men take on, that is the thing that will make your courage come out. And it will leave the betas where they're at and leave the alphas to handle those pressures. And that's what Chief was tapping on with that. And the only way, truthfully, yeah, your father, if he's courageous and he's a man, he's breaking his plateaus, he's raising his children with these statements, this purpose of being a man and showing them that this is how you be a man. Yeah, that is good influence. But at the end of the day, it's still the child, the male child, or the child in general that has to break those plateaus of struggle, pain, resistance. All that stuff has to be, you have to be courageous enough to break those plateaus and break through that barrier in order to become what you would say a man. So I think those are the main attributes right there. You can have your influences, your jegnas, you can have everybody around you, but it's not their responsibility to break through your struggles. You only have the responsibility to break through. And if you're man enough to do that, that is your mission. That's going to be your directive, to break through those fears and break through all those things that might make you a coward if you backed off and not paid attention to them. So,
hey, Michelle, before me and Brother Zach jump in, we do have a caller, caller 864. We're going to bring that caller in, and then we'll definitely make sure that we come back to the question you asked, because it's an important one. Caller 864, you're on Chief Speaks.
Greetings, family. This is Pedro.
Peace.
And enjoying all y'all build on this great progressive cycle of the spring equinox. So, and of course, being a student, got to give you a little 10%, 2%, whatever you got to do. Like I said, everybody right on key, and with the family thing is I know me, my wife, she had the same problem. She didn't have a male figure or father figure in the household, and they pretty much bashed him down. Anyway, I know him. We see him time to time. He's not a bad guy. He just just one of those situations when you outnumbered, being talked down on, or, not just being the stand-up father that he, I guess they thought he should be or whatever, just kind of kept him away or whatever. But it's, like I said, I've been with my wife for really, in all 15 years. We separated for 2. But, and I say, like, last year was really when he really just started trusting me completely. you know, when it came to like when to make a decision or how to make a decision. He just now really accepting the fact that, okay, you know, this guy does have an intelligent mind. You know, I've been knowing him forever. He really never has led me any wrong ways. It's just all that being together along with, you know, trying to teach the spirituality and just teach life period. Like I've had to be a therapist pretty much. And I think every real father or husband will end up doing that somewhat anyway. But to me, I've kind of been doing it for a long time, and like I said, I'm just now really for the past like 6-7 months really getting alignment with, you know, our minds and how we need to do things. So it's been a struggle, but it's been beautiful at the same time because I've seen a lot of growth. I've seen like how I've grown, how, you know, my decision making, just dealing with all of it has really gotten better. It's just now just pushing forward this transition of leaving that old lifestyle that I had behind. Because, you know, I was in the streets, not like in the streets, just out robbing and stealing and stuff like that, but, you know, just out hustling pretty much. And it ain't been nothing that I've really been proud to talk about. That's why I don't talk about it that much, because, you know, I'm really trying to stand for something that's legitimate and something that's really going to progress our people as a nation. Because as I'm doing this, I'm learning, you know, people gravitate towards me anyway, you know, whether they're in the streets or not. People just always seem to come to me for something or want my opinion about something. So I think, you know, it is for me to teach, but I just really want to get it all the way synced in and really filter out all this poison that I've been allowing myself these past 16, 17 years of just, you know, being out and trying to make it on my own. Because I actually have read into 2 spiritual priests that, you know, that basically they gave me the okay to go out and hustle. You know what I'm saying? You know, long story short, you know, and I would think then, like, dang, you know, is it really okay? You know what I'm saying? But it's not okay because, you know, I had got caught anyway. You know, I beat the charge, but I still got caught, you know, and it's like, you know, just going through all that. Just going through all that. And
so, Brother Pedro, it sounds like you're saying, like, about, like, the lessons that you learned, and how do those lessons impact what you share with young brothers? Just to kind of steer it back to the question that Sister Michelle was asking. I don't know if you had a chance to hear it or not, but she asked a question about really trying to develop young men and help young men to develop a sense of courage that men definitely need to have. Do you have any kind of just choice ways that you've done that or experiences you've had with that?
Yeah, like I say, you know, we my family, my cousin Professor actually, he started Pun and William Productions. And well, with my son, you know, I always let him see us interacting on that end, you know what I'm saying, as far as the family business. And he see, you know, when he with me, he see other young guys that he don't even know come up to me, you know, give me handshakes, like, man, you know, I did what you told me to do, you know, because I talk to young fellas, you know, besides my son, and you know, like he said, you see, yeah. You know?
Can I be heard?
Yeah.
Really? All right. I'm guessing then Brother Pedro had dropped.
Yeah.
Y'all
can hear me?
Oh, yeah, we hear you now, brother.
Oh, all right. But yeah, just like, you know, I did have a mentor program, and I was on the men's call. We talked about that or whatever, but I still, like I said, I'm still in contact with a few of those little brothers, and just like I say, showing them the positive things. Like I said, I take it to the studio, they see us edit videos, communicate with certain entrepreneurs, A&Rs and stuff like that. You know, I just try to let them know that there's people around that are not in the cycle that they seeing, because it's, the streets is heavy in my area, so it's rough, but it ain't to where it's out of control. These young brothers nowadays, they can really kind of think for themselves, I guess. All the technology and stuff, but
Brother Pedro, it sounds like you're saying that, like, one of the things that you do is really try to make sure that your son sees you being a certain type of man. Hopefully that helps to really set like a vision for what he's trying to become. That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I mean, that's important, right? That's obviously like one of the things that helps young boys become men is actually seeing a man, actually seeing a positive man, positive role models of man. And it's even better when that person is their father, really helping them to give them a vision and idea of what a man looks like. Brother Zach, did you want to respond to Sister Michelle's question?
Yeah, so I'm just making sure that I heard her right. You're saying that how do you help cowards become men? Is that what the question was? To make sure.
Yeah, how to remove the cowardice from a male.
So you stop sleeping with them. That's really how you remove cowards. Is you get rid of them. You don't give them access to your vagina. And a lot of times, I don't really hang with cowards. So that's not really my mission. And my goal is to figure out how to remove the cowardness from males, because then again, that's just the people you hang around is going to reflect you. And that's not going to be a reflection on me. I only hang with warriors. I only hang with people who I know are going to go get it. If you're not going to go get it,
no, brother.
again,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm specifically asking the advice for, like, because I mainly see a lot of the men that I see day to day are really cowards. They don't have the courage to face a cop or to even question any type of authority. So how does a male move from that space of cowardice into a more courageous space where he can be a man for the community, for his family?
He can't. Again, either it's in him or either it's in him or it ain't. Because I know plenty of people, and I've seen this as first-hand experiences, Michelle. You got people who talk, man, I got this AK-47, AR-15, got the scope, yada, yada, yada. But when you in a gunfight with them, they behind the car crying. It's just not in them. And when you dealing with people like that, they're liability. So it's just simply, unfortunately, and that's why what we going through right now, as far as like developing our masculine principle, is you just have to peep that. And that's what the brothers, that's where big brothers, uncles, fathers, mentors, we gotta tell these sisters that, like, he doesn't have heart, period. Because, we was down here at the Ogun Festival, Ogun Oko Osun Ochosi Festival. And, Ogun came down. And some brothers just don't have it. And they are an absolute liability in a life or death situation because they don't have it. It don't make you a bad person if you don't have it. But like Brother Charles said, and like Brother Pedro was saying, you have to show the young fellas what it's like to be courageous and instill that heart in them. But if they don't have heart, you are worthless. Because I know it was this one of my friends is an officer, and we trained K9s, and he had this particular German Shepherd, that could do everything. He could track, he could bite, he could run. This was the most athletic German Shepherd that I have ever seen. But he did not jump fences. Like, the dog did everything. I'm literally, this dog he can jump like a 10-foot fence easily. But when they was actually pursuing the suspect, every single time this dog would get to a fence and stop. So what ended up happening is they was chasing this guy, and it was three of them. It was him, the canine handler, and his partner. And they chased this guy into a yard, jumped the fence, and the dog went jump fences. And he was telling everybody that how good the dog was. It was a German imported East German DDR German Shepherd, pedigreed after the yin yang. Talking about you looking at a $20,000 dog. But that handler knew that dog did not jump fences. So they jumped the fence. The dog went jump the fence, and he's trying to get the dog to jump the fence, and his partner got shot because he ran him into an ambush. Now, no matter how good that dog looked, no matter what all he did, he just didn't have it in him to jump a fence. So to expect a coward to become courageous, you putting yourself in a dangerous position at that point. Because because there's nothing that's going to, okay, now you finna get challenged now. Get your mind right. Now it happens like within a minute, within a second. You see that muzzle flare? What you finna do, bro? We are taking fire. You can't go talk to them at this point. You have women and children behind you. What are you gonna do, Craig? And some people, unfortunately, some brothers, some men or males just don't have that in them. And it's to the detriment of the sisters who think or who feel or want that to be in them, and it's just not. That's why Chief was like, man, we really could knock a couple of dudes for these women because they don't have it in them to keep them. And that's just something that as black as our Nubians is to guide the sisters to be like, look, if he does stuff like that, he don't have heart, and you can't give him heart. No matter what you do, he'll let you kill him before he actually does something courageous. And once again, that's from life and death experiences that I've had personally. And it was some of my partners that was like that. I'm like, he cool. We can. I don't even question. I even question how much I could even hang around this person after that. But if I'm not taking him down a dark alley, because once that knob get turned, he's done. Tail tucked, hiding in the bushes. So like that's my best advice. I tell my sisters that. I tell the Obi-Wan that's around me. If he has shown you that he don't have heart, you have to leave him alone. No matter how good of a person you think he is, you have got to leave him alone. Because when he gets exposed, usually 9 times out of 10 is going to be at your expense. Because he's going to always be like, well, yada.
So, Brother Dietrich, can I jump in here on this for a second? On this one?
I'm sorry.
No,
he was flowing though.
Yeah, no doubt, he is. But so System Show, I just wanted to make sure that I gave your question, some respect to and honor and answered it. So I'm going to say like a couple different things about. One is that when you talk about trying to help a man become courageous, that I agree with what the brothers are saying in the sense that that's not a process that really starts at manhood. You're really talking about something that starts at boyhood. And so I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine right now. His son is involved in a rites of passage program, right? And so as a part of that program, he was saying that he's out there with them right now. They're out in the woods. And as a part of their process, they are engaging in physical conflict. Just organized conflict. But between the boys, they're learning how to fight each other in a real way. And, one of the things that we were talking about was the value of boys and young men getting a chance to really exert their physicality and to test their physicality against each other. So when we were growing up, I'm sure for the brothers on the line, they remember this. When you were growing up, there was always like a bully in your neighborhood. There was somebody that was like the toughest person in the neighborhood or whatever, and that person would beat up everybody else. And you might have been the person that got beat up by that person a couple times, but eventually you got to a point where you had to make a decision whether or not you're going to keep getting beat up by that person or whether you're going to fight back. And so whether or not you won the fight was really ancillary to the fact that you fought back. And so I remember for me, there was a young man like that. It was a kid. I remember he used to beat me up, and one time he threw me into we had these like little stick bushes that I grew up in, and he threw me into the stick bushes. And I remember I went into the house, and I was in there, and I was crying, and I was maybe 9 or 10 or something like that. And my father looks at me and says, "Look, you're gonna go out there right now, and you're gonna fight this kid. And if you don't fight this kid, I'm gonna fight you." And I knew for sure I couldn't be my dad, but I thought there might be a chance I could beat this kid, and I definitely want to take that risk instead of the other one. And so I went downstairs and I fought the kid, and I think I won. I don't know, maybe I won, maybe I didn't. But the point is that I fought him, and
you want to have it?
Knockout. I didn't Mike Tyson, but the point is that by doing that first of all, me and that kid never had a problem again. But that helped to develop my sense of courage, because I learned that you have to face these things, these challenges, these obstacles that come into your life. Now, the beauty of life is that life is going to keep presenting you with those challenges for you to continue to develop that sense of courage, because that sense of courage is going to look different at different stages of your life and through different experiences. So on the one hand side, I would say for the young men, the problem is that there's not enough brothers doing the forcing the young man to develop that sense of courage by putting him in situations where he has to respond to conflict, or he has to respond to challenge, and he has to push through. That's a fault of the brothers. That's a fault of the men. Also, the society at large is really trying to weaken that for everybody, but particularly for the men. So that's something that we have to do a better job of. Now, as you get older, then it becomes much more about, are you sort of going up that ladder of that level system of responding to what courage looks like at different levels, right? And so now for the more I guess for the spiritual people, think about your chakra system, right? Think about how you start with that root chakra, that's like just your basic needs getting met, right? And then you go to that next level, that where the sexual organs are, right? That's a level there. Then you go to like the solar plexus area. You go to that before you get to the heart chakra. Now, like Brother Dietrich was saying, we was talking about you got to have heart, that Okan. With the heart chakra, we know in our Ifa system, that's where Ogun is. That's the heart chakra. The Ogun is the heart. Brother Dietrich even referenced going to the Ogun festival, having Ogun come down, and people not responding to it. Well, that's because that chakra part for them has not been awoken yet, because they haven't gone through those other levels. They haven't gone through the root chakra level. They haven't gotten their basic needs met. They haven't found out how to basically take care of themselves. That's at a shoe level. The next level up, where those sexual organs are, they haven't cultivated that energy. That's where the Oshun energy is. They haven't cultivated that ability to really love and care for something else. The next level above that, the solar plexus level, that's the Shango level. They haven't cultivated the courage it takes to live the life that they want to live. And then the heart chakra, where Ogun is, that's the ability to actually carry it out. So it's this developmental process that people are missing out on, and that young men are missing out on. So when you see the man in his 30s or 40s or 50s, the ones that you're talking about, who are not demonstrating that courage, it's because they've fallen out of alignment with the process. They either never engaged the process, or even more unfortunately, when they were younger, no one actually engaged them in the process. And this gets back to the value of having rites of passage programs, because African people have traditionally understood that it's a process to become a man. You don't just become a man. You don't just get old and say, I'm a man now. There's certain work that has to be done at certain times in your life in order for you to get to that stage. So, that's kind of a long answer, but I'm just saying that I think it's, for the young men, it's really about a certain process being followed that really has to be guided by men that do have courage. And then for those that you're seeing now that don't have it, what you're witnessing is people who have never engaged in that process and never had someone really usher them through it.
Can I chime in?
Give thanks, brothers.
Yes. Give thanks. There's one thing, like me growing up, I was with my mother and my sister, and like I said, I see my father like twice a year or so. So a lot of the things that I respect about my upbringing is that my mother gave me that room to find my manhood. You know, she allowed me to do things that was helpful for me, building things. I was always in the building. I was a skateboarder. I used to skate, so I used to build ramps and all that stuff. I used to build decks. So you built like the concrete slab and the basketball thing in my backyard. So there was a lot of things that my mother opened up the area so I can go in there and experiment and put my hands on something and do things that gave me my manhood. You know, I had a couple of male figures in my life also that helped me see what they did for their family. They gave me in a direction. So for single mothers, it really, I'm just using that term just to kind of put it out there. If you have male children, you have to give them the space so they can go in there and expand their manhood and do things that will help them find content. Like even just basic karate lessons. Going there is one thing. You know, just basic things with putting the kids or the let's just say the kids right now, because I'm not going to be talking about teenagers. Teenagers, they have to learn their lesson. They're going, like my 19-year-old. That's probably one of the things I'm always talking to him about is opening his mouth. If you open your mouth, you might get fed. If you're not opening your mouth and you're not doing the work, you're not going to get fed. So don't sit there and just complain about you being fed, being hungry, and not opening your mouth and doing the work to get fed. So with the younger kids, since I have a 7-year-old, I say make sure that they're involved in the things that I do, like as my manly tasks and stuff, that things that fixing cars and carving and all that other good stuff. I get him involved in those things. So just that's my advice on that, because being in I don't want to say single parent, but just have a female parent household as a boy growing up, you get shielded from a lot of things that happen on the outside world, because the mother's trying to protect her male child. But the male child is always being protected, even when they get older and 19 years old, and they're sitting at the house still being under some kind of shield that the mother wants to put out, because she's not allowing the male to move forward. So you gotta let
Hey, you know, and I think this is a good segue into we have some questions that's coming from the chat room. And one of the questions in the chat room from Designs Not Defined asks, how do I work with my child's father to get him on board with the best manner to raise our son? Question mark. Spend a lot of time working on myself, but have a hard time remaining in a positive place working with him. So what kind of advice or guidance would you offer the sister with this question? Brother Charles, go with you first.
Oh, you know what? Actually, so I saw that chat room question too. I was actually thinking I wanted to have Sister Michelle respond to that first. Since the question is coming from a woman, I just want to see what Sister Michelle thinks, and then we can definitely jump into as well. Sister Michelle, did you hear the question?
Yes, I saw the question in the chat room. Thank you, brother. The question that Designs Not Defined asked is something actually that I wanted to chime in on. And but first, I want to give thanks to all you men on the call. Thank you so much, because you have given me a new understanding of manhood, and I hope that the same has happened to all the women who are listening. If you have the ears to hear, it is so important for us women to see that we cannot change a man. As you can see, I don't know if you noticed, the question that I asked in itself was almost like to help men that are on the call, but at the same time, that's not my position. I cannot help a man. Like how you guys have said, it's in the man, and it's in the man. If it's not, it's not. There's nothing that we can do about it. So that is a big alarm for us when we're picking our males for our children. We can't teach a man how to be a better father. We can't really teach these things that are supposed to be innate And if he got it, he has it. If he doesn't, he doesn't. And that also is another call for us as mothers, you know, to let go so much of the protectiveness with our sons. We are harming them by protecting them so much and not letting them achieve these rites of passage that they need to achieve so that they cannot be cowards. You know, so I wanted to thank you because those are the insights that I got, and I hope I answered the question that was in the chat room. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, well, no need to thank me. You cut me off. You didn't like my answer, so which is totally fine. But I mean, this is the piece where we're getting at. So is, I mean, when somebody, even this is the something as subtle as that is, you know, when you're not hearing something that you don't want to hear, can you relax and say we're gonna roll with it, or do you have to? No, you're not understanding me. Instead of saying yeah, I do understand, you got to say, well, let me rephrase it so you get it. And I think just to the sister's question that she had in the chat room is you're not gonna lead a man and get him to do what you want him to do. All right, and that's the thing is you got to be more careful with when you pick whoever you choose to lay down with. Then you have to start to see where this person is leading you from the jump. And even if you listen to the show, I want to say it was like, I don't know, when the lady called in and they were kind of building back and forth, it was like a 3 or 4 month period where when you shouldn't even have sleep with this person, just to see, you listen with your eyes to see, you know, what is this person doing what they say they're doing? Because a male can tell you anything. You know, he can give you some solid game and whisper in your ear and tell you everything that you want to hear, but is he actually doing what he says that he is doing? And you have to watch. You have to watch him and follow him and make sure that he is holding up his end of the bargain and saying that, okay, I can really get down with this and I can really follow and I can submit. And I can come under his plan. But if he doesn't have a plan and he's not sure of what he's doing, then you have to cut him off. And that's kind of what I was even building on is don't lay down with somebody and sleep with somebody. And you know you're not sure about this person. You're not sure of what direction they're going in. But then all of a sudden you lay down and bust it wide open and you text him like he's an alpha male. But already knowing as soon as you stand up and you start following him and you look at him and say, but he's a beta though everywhere else. Well, then now you have to take some accountability to this. You have to look at your own self and say, you know what, then all of this stuff that I felt like I wanted to give my child, all of this stuff that I felt like I wanted to do with my family, all this, I may have to give a little bit of that up now. Because you know what, if this is what he wants to do and this is the culture that he is implementing, then we have to get down with the culture. And if you didn't want to get down with the culture that he wanted to implement for the family, then you should have picked somebody else. So now if it's not going to work and if it's just not going to go there, well then now, and you're no longer with him, well then now you have to find somebody else to fill that void. Because it's like even when you heard Brother Anwar speaking, and you can go back and listen to that call as well. A woman is not going to, you can't raise a man, right? You need some men to be around him. And even Brother Charles was speaking of that rites of passage, because when you start to raise a line around a bunch of sheep and it starts eating grass, it no longer knows that it's a line until it comes around other lines. Whoa. It might be close out of the line. So when you start to see the dynamic and you start to see these things, then we got to start taking this accountability because we work hard for our situation. We work hard. And a lot of times when we're getting protected by our ancestors, we get protected and things are not working out the way we want them to be, but it's also for our protection. But then we just keep going. And all of a sudden we find ourselves in these situations and then we start to bring that blame out. So that would be my response. Go ahead, Brother Charles.
Yeah, this is Brother Pedro. I just want to say, to me, it's of course, it's different levels to the cowardness. Because I honestly watch my grandfather. He's 83 years old, and he's still out at the car wash washing cars because he don't like to sit down. He like to just work. And that's one of the things that I always acknowledge and learn from him, to just get out there and do whatever you got to do. But like, when he got home, my grandmother would tell him what to do. He'd just not come in. Brother Gray, I need to go I need some milk for breakfast in the morning, stuff like that. So he'll go back out and get it, come back, yes, ma'am. He was just kind of just did whatever she did. And then I noticed, like I'm thinking now, I noticed they haven't, I don't know if they have, but I ain't seen them sleep in the same bed in the past 15, 20 years. Not to say that they don't have a good relationship or nothing, but it's just, I didn't see that alpha male input the way we getting it now, learn from Chief and you brothers. I didn't see that in a verbal situation, or in a verbal kind of way. It was more so just what he did, you know what I'm saying? Just went to work, made sure everything was taken care of, come home, and just pretty much just do whatever. Like, she wouldn't even always have a meal prepared for him. He'd have to leave back out, go to churches, come back and sit down and eat. He'll walk upstairs, and we wouldn't really see him no more. So I'm not saying he's a coward, but I just feel like he should have stood up more, because the women in my family, they have a lot more, I guess, just impulse on the family when it comes to decision making and stuff like that, or when to be criticized. It's the women. And we don't have a lot of men in my family that do that. I got an uncle, but, we need more than just him, because he can get outnumbered. They try to criticize him, so it's just, I think it's just, different levels that we have to acknowledge too, man, because that's just,
and before you go on, I think we have a call that's on the line. 797 would like to join the conversation. 797, you are on Chief Speak Student Edition.
Peace, brothers and sisters. It's
Brother Byron.
Brother Byron.
Greetings, Baba Byron.
Thank
How
you,
you doing,
brother.
Is everyone okay? Everyone okay?
We all right. You don't got to introduce yourself. We know your voice, brother.
Feel better you on, man.
Yeah, man. Things are going forward, man. We're moving forward in a straight line over here. So, I was listening for a little while because I couldn't get out of the show, so I've been listening, and I wasn't going to call in. I was just listening, but I just thought I needed to chime in and just raise a couple of points, if I may. The first one is that African men or African boys don't become African men by finding anything. African boys, in the process of becoming a man, are given very clear and specific direction and instruction on what to do in the process of growing from a youth to a young man. So in the case of young men finding out about, the young men don't find out about, they don't go out there to find out how to be a man. In terms of African culture, they may do that in Western culture, but in African culture, the process of transference from a youth to a man is a very clearly defined process, which is managed by elders and senior men and babas. So I just want to be very clear and specific about that. We don't find anything. You are given something or given things to do and instructions and learning to become a man. I think and I just really want to clearly define that. And I was listening, and there was a comment made about women or young women. Maybe I misheard it, but young women giving up the sitting to be with a man. Well, I'm a father of two girls, two daughters, and I would never, and I'm sure the mother doesn't advise them to give up nothing to no man. I'm sure the advice and the instruction is that you need to hold on to that, because that is one of the heights of your femininity, and you don't want to be going around giving that away indiscriminately. So I am not involved in the detailed raising of females, because I know that that's mainly the mother's role. And I support her in that process. But as a father, I wouldn't be encouraging my daughters to be giving up nothing to no man, because the man's got to come correct and he's got to come better than that. So I just really want to say that.
Thank you so much for that, brother.
Okay.
Okay, I think we got another call that's on the line. 662, you are on Chief Speaks.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say I'm really thankful for this conversation, because I was feeling kind of guilty. I left my son and my brother in my house and just took a travel position, and I'm one of those overprotective females. And it looks like they making it, and I'm happier. So this conversation is just giving me clarification that I probably did the right thing, and I appreciate that.
You know you did. You know you got to push them out of the nest. They'll never fly if you don't push them out the nest.
Can I ask a question to the sister? Sister, how less stressed are you now since you pushed them into that situation? Since
I am so much. Yeah, I am so much less stressed. They can call and say the internet's not paid. I'm like, work it out, people.
Now even with that, how are you able to dive into your own womanhood now, since you don't have those stresses in front of you?
Well, it's been a minute. I had a roommate. I had another female roommate for a minute, but now that she's gone, I have plans to just work on me and do my own thing.
Yeah, and again, if you're not speaking, we just ask that you put your phone on mute so that we can hear everybody when they come in. But I'm sorry, go ahead, sister.
Okay, so I had been trying to work on me, but I had a roommate, and that made it a little bit difficult. But right now, I'm by myself. I have like 6 more weeks here, so I'm just gonna delve into my spiritual training program and do some meditation and just work on me. But I mean, my head is clear. I'm feeling a little lightweight, so I'm feeling better.
Healthier. You're feeling healthier? Are you?
In a way, not so much as healthier. I'm just feeling like I put some luggage away or something. You know what I'm saying? I don't feel so tied down, so bogged down.
Is this Sister Michelle?
It is Sister Michelle. Hi, Sister Michelle.
How you doing? I'm good. I'm good to hear that you're progressing. I wanted to ask you, how's the dating life going?
I'm still not dating, Sister Michelle.
Oh, okay. Because, that male directive really does help even more if you got help, Yes.
I just haven't really met anybody.
Okay.
I'm working on it though. I'm still looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just putting that out there, so just be aware. Look for the signs,
I am.
You wasn't feeling that buffet dinner, huh?
No, the buffet dinner didn't get it.
All right. So we got another question that's in the chat room from Soul Love. Soul Love says, I'm an Ogun woman head, and I had to be that for my mother and a lot of other reasons. What's your thoughts on Ogun women? Anybody want to jump in? Brother Charles, I know you always solid.
Okay.
Solid.
So I mean, the first thing I would say is that we are not defined by the Orisha that, as they say, crowns our head. So, that gives us an indication of certain type of energetic vibrations that are maybe more easy for us to access, but it doesn't mean that it's our job to be that Orisha. in this world. So, you know, what Ogun is, that's defined, you know, and that's an ever evolving process. When Ogun chooses you, it's so that you evolve Ogun as you evolve. So it's not for you to become, you know, the pre-colonial version of Ogun, whether you're male or female, but to really figure out, how do I transform that energy into what Ogun means in 2017. So defining ourselves by those Orisha, you know, that can become a lockdown and a box for us, just like anything else. So for that question, you know, the sister is talking about being an Ogun woman, and that has been valuable for her family. Well, that makes a lot of sense, because these spiritual forces that come into the world with us come with us to assist us in our journey, right? But the true mastery of this Ifa spiritual system is the development and cultivation of all of these different Orisha energy. So it's not just about how do I work with Ogun, or just how I work with Shango, or just how I work with Yemoja. It's about how do I work with all of these things? How do I work with all these energies? And also, and this gets back to something we were talking about earlier in the show, how do I work with those complementary energies along that male-female paradigm, right? So if I'm Ogun, what is that complementary female energy then that works with that? You know, if I'm Yemoja, what is the complementary male energy that works with that? You know, so how do I run those types of equations and calculations so that I can evolve not only myself, but also the work that I'm doing, and also evolve that Orisha energy the same way? So, you know, for that person that put that question out there, I would say it's good that you found out what that Orisha that is assisting you, you know, at your for your head, but you never want to forsake your Ori in that process. The Ori that's your chief Orisha. That's you. You know, there's a Pataki that talks about, you know, all the rest of the Orisha leaving you, but the Ori is the one that stays. And so we always want to make sure that we're holding that one as paramount to the other Orisha, at the same time that we don't get trapped into a dynamic or a paradigm where we say, well, I'm an Omo Ogun, and so therefore my whole life has to be about trying to be whatever I think Ogun is based on what I've read or what I've seen.
You know, and even when great info too, brother. And I would even just add that it even comes full circle, you know, with that, again, Buddhist circle, the wheel, and not getting trapped in one part of the wheel. And even at the beginning of the show, when you hear, you have to express that different rainbow coalitions that live within inside of you. So just what you was just speaking about, don't get trapped into just one form of identity, saying that this is what I am. All of these identities live inside of you. And it's on you at any point in time to call on one of these to get whatever you need to get handled. And when you get trapped and you get stuck, you're getting stuck on the outer sphere of the wheel. And there's really no sense of, you know, stability there. There's no sense of, you don't know what it is. So when you start to move closer to the center to master these things, and then eventually you want to get off of it. But again, until you can get off of it, you want to start to take a look closer at those things so you can master it. What would you say, advice you would give the sister Michelle on this?
Well, I think Chief has shared a message that he said that the energy on your head, so to speak, is what you lack, not what you are. So it's what you need to develop. And that reminds me of the North Node, South Node investigation, when you have to find out who you are. One of the nodes tells you the energy that you have to master. So the energy on your head is what you have to master. And as a little cheat, I think I remember that Chief said that an Ogun woman is the Oya energy. So for the person who asked the question, so love, you might want to delve into the Oya energy and see all the aspects of the energy, you know, the heaven and the hell, and see how you relate, and then try to master it and then overcome it. Because that's what the brothers were sharing. We're supposed to be, you know, all the energies at once, or be the center of the wheel of life. Yeah, so that's all I have to share.
And I'm gonna just say one thing that Chief has shared too is the energy on your head, so to speak, is what you lack, not what you are. So it's what you need to develop. So kind of just what even Brother Charles was speaking on is that upward spiral. And that spiral that when you're starting to move upward, even when you start working with the energy, you say, one of the things that I did was just give me your mind. And then after I get the mind of issue, then now all of a sudden a shoe or this energy would latch onto you, and then you go beyond where that space or that place is. So we're coming to the end of the segment. It's been a wonderful ride. Does anybody have any parting words that they would like to share before we go ahead and close out?
Two things. The theme about the equinox this month has been a concept of pulling the things that are in your darkness in your internal place and pulling those things that you need to move forward into the next mission, and not having anything hold you back by saying, I gotta wait for this energy or I gotta wait for that energy. These are the obstacles that we have to all challenge ourselves to. So just keep in mind that no one directs your life, only you do. So that's my last statement.
Right on. Does anybody else have it?
I just want to deeply thank Chief, thank the Anu family. This month has been so transformative for me. I will that the same is happening for everybody listening. And if the Equinox shows have touched you, have transformed you, I would welcome an invite for everybody to call into the community shows during the week. As you know, Chief has really been giving a lot to us the past couple of weeks. And I think it's about time that we give a little back. Give them a break. Let's share of our experiences with the family, how we're all growing, and that will just continue the flow and continue our preservation to want to keep going and want to keep breaking these plateaus and just keep being in that perpetual state of the equinox. And yeah, I just wanted to be thankful.
Right on. Does anybody else have anything before we shut it down?
Yeah, just real quick for all the brothers out there, we will be having the men's call next Sunday. So, please join in for that. We'll definitely be talking about some of the things we touched on today. The only other thing I would say is, as with regard to the equinox discussion, is that, when we look at a tool like the Wheel of Life, or when we look at the Opon Ifa, the purpose of those as tools is to really help us elevate. So it's not about, staying within the cycle or learning how to navigate the cycle better. It's really about figuring out how to break that cycle and how to elevate. And so, use these tools that you have available to you to help you do that. But the purpose, I think at some point our work has to ascend beyond just trying to figure out how to get that job that we want, or that car that we want, or that spouse that we want, and then to figure out what's the next level above that. And when we really get into that mindset, then we're breaking out of a lot of these dynamics and a lot of these traps that, you see as a part of that Wheel of Life. So, the encouragement is to continue to do the study, but then always do the work as well, because one without the other isn't going to take you anywhere.
Right on. And again, if you wanted to join those men's or women's calls, you can go to newlifeglobal.org, and you have to join the ministry, and then you'll get an email sent out to you with the number and the time. Women's calls are Monday evenings, and the men's call is every first Sunday of the month. So again, we thank everybody for tuning in. If you heard nothing else, then make sure you leave with this. You move things when and how you want them to move. All right. So get your mind right. Put the work in, put the effort in, and start to move. All right. We thank everybody for calling. And until next time, community will be right back at you Monday, early in the dawning. So call in, listen in, and build. All right. Peace.
Peace, everybody.
Thank you for using Blog Talk.